You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys.
Woohoo!
Jeff, we are so glad to have you back.
Man, it is good to be back. I've been gone a long time.
Well, 2 full weeks.
Yeah. I missed you. I missed you, Chris.
Oh, I missed you too,
Every
Jeffy.
time I knew you were in the studio, I was just so sad.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, hey, Wesley called his edition. You didn't know this. He said Bible Guys Platinum Edition.
yeah, I heard that.
Did you?
I heard, yeah, Platinum
That's
Edition.
so funny.
So,
And,
yeah, it's a big upgrade.
Yeah,
big upgrade.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, he
It's
said,
just we couldn't afford the rent, so now it's back to Jeff.
Well, when I said that means it's an upgrade, he goes, no, it's not an upgrade. He goes, Jeff's the Diamond Edition.
Yeah.
So, hey, Kyle did a great job. Wesley did a great job, but we're glad to have you back in
Man,
the
it
studio.
is good to be back.
We are on the Heritage stage, and we don't know how long that's going to last, but if you're watching and the studio looks different, that's the reason why.
We had some studio changes.
Yes, studio changes, yep. And we'll update you more on that. And also, we are diving into a brand new series today.
Yes. So we've gone through, this is like, how many episodes have we done? 700 and something episodes?
706 today.
Yeah, something like that. Well, that's the one that's playing today, right?
Yes,
Right, yeah.
correct.
While we're recording.
Yes.
So, anyways, we're over 700 episodes, and we've gone through the entire New Testament,
No, that's right.
the entire Old Testament,
Well, we went through highlights.
virtually the Old
Yeah.
Testament. Yeah, almost every verse of the New Testament, most
Yes.
of the Old Testament. Then we did and we've also done all 250 events in the life of Jesus.
That's right.
And you just go on and on and on and on. I mean, we're very prolific.
Yeah, well,
very prolific.
We've also done verse by verse certain books of the Old Testament as well.
Yeah. So this one, I thought, because I was trying to think about it, and I was talking with Des and Desiree, and I couldn't remember what it was I committed to do, and because we had this big planning meeting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I slept since then or something. I don't know if it rolled out my ears.
I slept.
Yeah, and it rolled out my ears. I don't remember. So I was working on this idea, and I was thinking, I'd really like to get back into talking about the teachings of Jesus.
Sure.
And then I thought, what if Jesus had his own podcast?
Oh, there it is.
Right?
Yeah.
And so let's just take the sayings of Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. So we're just going to go through a bunch of the sayings of Jesus for the next several weeks.
Can we call it Jesus' famous quotes?
Jesus' famous quotes, yeah.
Famous quotes by Jesus?
Famous quotes.
Okay. All right. Very cool.
They still work today, by the
Yes.
way. I'm a big fan. Big fan of them.
They still work today.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do for the next, I don't know, like 10, 12 weeks, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So next 3 months, you hang in there. Oh, no.
12
Oh, yeah, it is. Well, I thought you meant 12 episodes, but no, you meant 12
It's
weeks.
like 12, 10 or 12 weeks. Something
Okay.
like that, yeah.
All right. So before we dive into that, we have a segment today called Mailbags. And both of our voices are struggling, so
Yes.
that's the reason why.
I couldn't get my
Yeah.
harmonies up
Yeah,
there. That
yeah.
was as high as I could go.
Okay. So mailbags today. This is written
this is
in by
cool.
Stephen H.
Hi, Steve H.
Yeah. Steve H. says, my wife and I love listening to you too every morning.
Oh.
I've always wanted to send in a mailbag question, so I'm finally doing it.
Oh, there you go.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
So here it is. As fellow pet owners, ... if your pet could talk, what do you think they might say about you?
Oh, no.
Gee,
Okay.
Listen, first of all, Steve, I have never had that thought in my life.
I have not either. Wow.
What might they say about me
What?
or us
Yes.
as pet owners?
If your pets could talk, what would they say about
Well, see, okay, let me just start with the fact that I have cats.
Yes.
And so cats are devious in nature. Have you ever seen those things where it says what a dog is thinking, what a cat is thinking?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they're so funny.
Right.
The dog is like, "Hey, you're home. I'm so happy."
Yeah.
And give me a bone. And then the cat is like, "Day number 385 of my captivity." It's like they refuse to fill my bowl. They're trying to starve me.
If I could eat them, I would.
If I could eat them, I would. Day number 500 in captivity, and it says something like they attacked me with the large vacuum or something.
Right.
It's so funny because
They're just angry.
yes,
Yeah.
cats are devious.
Grumpy. Yep.
They're sort of non-appreciative, although they love you. They have affection, right? But they sort of are that way.
Yeah.
They're independent. They don't need
Right.
you. So
Well, I think so. I have 2 dogs. My wife and daughter have 2 dogs.
and don't forget their names.
Gucci and Chanel. Right. That's your name.
It's the least manly thing about you.
Yeah, I know.
You're like hunting deer, venison.
Yeah.
Gucci and Chanel.
Yeah. So Gucci is very emotional, and so I would say Gucci probably, if he could talk to me, he'd want to make sure we're okay. Are we okay? I mean, he looks deeply in your eyes. He gets up on your lap. He wants to make sure everything's okay, right? And Chanel would be like, "Do you have any snacks?"
Yep.
That's pretty much it. I don't know that Chanel has any deep thoughts in her head at all. We can't teach her any tricks. We can't. She's just.
That's it.
She's dumber than a box of rocks. But she's sweet. She's just
Right.
dumb. But she just wants treats. But Gucci seems to be very dialed into the emotional temperature of the room all the time. So
Okay,
yeah,
all
I'd
right.
imagine he'd want to know, make sure we're okay.
So, excuse me. I have 2 cats.
You're already bored. We're 5 minutes into the episode. You're already
You're
bored.
already bored. I used to have more cats, and they've slowly, sadly enough, they've slowly sort of died because we got them all at the same time, and then one by one they've just sort of gave up the ghost, and so I'm now down to 2. So Max is like 13 years old.
Wow.
And then I had one that went to 21.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, Champ went 21.
Champ. He was the champ.
He was the champ.
Yeah, that's like Guinness World Record kind of stuff.
I know. And then I have Cleo, and Cleo is I think like 10 years old.
Wow.
So anyway, Max is getting old enough to where I think all he wants are treats all the time. So I think it's just feed me. Why do you starve me? And when you give him treats, he throws up actually.
Oh, nice.
So because he's old enough to where he can't really handle it.
Handle treats.
So you give him more, so what he wants is not good for him, right? So it's just, why do you deny me treats is really sort of what he would say.
Wow.
And then I would say, Cleo would say, am I safe now? She spends like 90% of her time hidden under Liz's bed.
Oh.
And she doesn't come out. And so we'll have a house guest. And look, my mom and dad came in for Mother's Day weekend. And I said, I guarantee you're not going to see Cleo at all, not even once. And if you do, it'll be a miracle. And you may see Cleo once. She'll hide. And she only comes out like at midnight when everybody's gone to bed. And she'll sneak out and come down if you're watching TV.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Terrible.
That's terrible.
And you know the reason why?
Why?
I think it's because of childhood trauma. She was thrown out of a car into busy traffic.
So she's trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
She looks at you and goes, "You look like the kind of guy."
She was traumatized.
That's too bad.
And then somebody saved the kitten on the side of the road.
Uh huh.
She was just thrown out of a moving car, and then we took her.
And you took her. You
Yep.
guys rescued her.
That's right.
So I looked it up. 21 years was how long your cat lived.
Yeah.
And this says the world record for the age of a domestic house cat is held by Cream Puff, who lived an astounding 38 years and 3 days.
Oh my word!
She was born August 3rd, 1967, and passed on August 6, 2005 in Austin, Texas. That's the officially verified longevity champ.
Wow.
So your champ is a
Nothing.
chump.
Nothing.
A chump.
Champ, it's chump.
That's right.
His real name's not Champ.
For context, the average lifespan of indoor cats typically falls between 13 and 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's the average. The current oldest verified living cat is Flossie, which was born December 29th, 1995.
95.
Mm-hmm. So
Wow.
coming up on 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's impressive.
It is impressive.
There you go. So
Wow.
your champ was nothing.
Well, I'll tell you what. We've had some pretty cool cats. I've liked my cats.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, good. Talking about nothing and champs,
Okay.
I've got nothing about either of those things. We've got to get into I'm trying to transition.
Well, how about this?
Into this.
How about this? Speaking of champs, you know who is the champ?
Champ?
Jesus.
Jesus is the champ. Yeah. And he said, I'm going to make you champion fisherman.
No.
No? That's not gonna
no,
work?
That's not going to work.
No?
Just leave it at that. man.
Okay.
Just take the win.
All right. I'm sorry. So we are in these like famous sayings of Jesus.
Yes.
Right? And today, there's lots of them. We're
Yes.
clearly not going to cover them all.
No.
But we're just kind of, there's this random selection of get to know Jesus. And when he comes to his disciples, he has, when he's picking them at the beginning of his ministry, he's choosing his disciples. He has a really clear vision of what he wants for them. And so in Matthew chapter 4, verse 17, it says, "From then on, Jesus began to preach, 'Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near.'" That was his message. That's what he's preaching. It says, "One day as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. And Jesus called out to them, 'Come follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people.' And they left their nets at once and followed him. A little further up the shore, he saw two other brothers, James and John, sitting on the boat with their father Zebedee, repairing their nets, and he called to them too. And they immediately followed him, leaving the boat and their father behind." So there you go.
So what is the famous quote?
The famous quote is, "Come follow me, and I'll show you how to be fishers of men." Or
Okay.
this translation says fish for people.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now, you remember that song? I will make you fishers of men, fishers of men, fishers of men.
Yep.
I will make you... Oh, no, you're...
Fishers of men, if you follow me.
Okay.
Yep.
You had to at least get to the follow me.
Okay.
right? So that's a song in what, Sunday school? If you
Yeah.
grew up with a Sunday school.
That's right.
And then, yeah. Anyway, the point is, I was going to tell you a children's story, but that's okay.
Okay.
I did children's ministry. Did you do children's ministry?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I have all those child songs in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my number one rule when I was a children's worker was no crying. I would tell the kids that. All right, what's Pastor Jeff's number one rule? And they'd all yell, "No crying."
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That means you made them cry a lot.
No. They didn't cry.
Stop crying.
No, they policed each other.
Yeah.
Oh, Pastor Jeff's number one rule is we don't cry. Okay.
Okay, so I was children's director, well, off and on. I mean, like I had volunteers that took that role, but I was over children's ministry for like 8 years, and I'm not sure I've ever had a problem with anybody crying.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to create a number one rule about it?
Yeah, because I didn't want any crying.
Wow.
You know, little whiners. They want to go home. They want their mom and dad, whatever.
That's so funny.
I don't think I was wired for children's ministry.
My church was also a small church. We kind of knew each other too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So we just leveraged the relationship. I'm gonna call your mom in here.
I was running an Awana program that had like 250 kids in it, 300
Oh wow.
kids. something
Okay,
like that.
so that's
It
a little
was
bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had everything from like kindergarten to 6th grade.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I ran a vacation Bible school, my biggest that I've ever had with kids. I ran a vacation Bible school in the year of 1998, and I had it was a fair theme, like a festival carnival kind of theme.
Yeah.
And we had 500 kids in the parking lot with a bunch of carnival makeshift carnival rides, and it was kind of cool. And our
That's fun.
auditorium only held 300.
Oh yeah.
So we had standing wall to wall, all the way into the lobby, hundreds of people for the message. It was probably the highlight of my 8 years there. That was the most we've ever had.
Right.
There.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
So to give some background on this story, these guys already knew Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Peter and Andrew already knew Jesus. James and John already knew Jesus because they were also part-time followers of John the Baptist. Mm-hmm. And so in John chapter 1, it tells us that Peter and Andrew had already had an interaction with Jesus, and that they had, and then when Jesus called them, they knew who he was. They knew that John the Baptist had said, "This is the Lamb of God who's going to take away the sins of the world." They had perhaps been witnesses to his baptism. The dove, the Holy Spirit descends from heaven. The voice from God, the Father says, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." So they had an awareness of who Jesus is. And that is like, hey, we're big fans. Good job, Jesus. We think you're a good guy. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that they'd ever contemplated, I'm going to quit my business. Peter was a business owner, right? As a matter of fact, at one point it mentions Peter and James and John and Andrew and all those guys, and that there were multiple boats, many boats. Mm-hmm. So this is like a fishing operation. These aren't two guys out there with a pole in the water.
Right.
These are guys that are running a fishing operation with nets and men and boats and all this stuff. And so Jesus asked them, I want you to leave your business and come and follow me. And I'm going to make you fishers of men. I think what he's doing is he's giving purpose to their life. You're fishing for fish. Okay, good. That's necessary. But let me give you something that's even more important than that.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's a great message, because I want to talk about something else too, but let's not get off of that topic right away, because we understand that if you make widgets for a living, and you make a great, salary, and you provide for your family, those are important things.
That's important. That's exactly right.
And we can find purpose in those things.
Right.
We could provide excellent customer service. We could help humanity, and so we can try to find, and even if widgets are just for fun and they're not essential and you don't feel like you're helping humanity, you're still providing for your family.
Right.
So. Right, but that's the reason why a lot of people get to the end of their lives, and even though that they've spent their life making money and they could even be successful at it, they sort of transition, and what they do is they go from what is it, into significance? It's the search for significance.
Yeah.
Remember that book?
Yeah. From success to significance.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the book Halftime.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from success to significance. And a lot of people they know what success is. But then they just realize, geez, what is it all for? Making a living. Sure, I'm eating, and my kids are living indoors, and they're well clothed and provided for. But I want to do something that really matters in the life of people. And so a lot of people, they try to find things, especially midlife crisis type age or retirement age, right?
Right.
Where they say, I want to do something significant. Now, this isn't everybody, but I do have a feeling that there are a number of people even listening that are probably right at that crossroads that think the same thing. And it's not that you haven't done important things. It's just that there are things that are more important, right?
Right.
It's just like, remember when Jesus was meeting with Mary and Martha? And remember, Martha was upset that Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, and Martha says, "Hey, I'm the host, and we're supposed to be hosts together, and these are important things." And Jesus essentially said, "Hey, Martha, what you're doing is important,
Right.
but there is something more important."
Right.
Right? And that's eternal significance, right? Like, she's sitting at the feet of Jesus. Mary has chosen what is more important, and I'm not going to deny that from her. And so that's sort of what we're saying here. It's like, hey, they're fishermen. It's an important thing, but there's something more important. We're going to have you reverberate your effects all throughout eternity, right? You're going to do things that last beyond this world, right? If you feed a kid a fish and he'll eat for a day, but
that's right.
Right? You fish for a soul and they last for an eternity.
Right. So I think that that conversation we were having about work, all work that is legal,
Yes.
right, and moral,
Yes.
all work that is legal and moral has value, I think, right? Whether it's creating jobs or just feeding the family and clothing the family and keeping the family living indoors, those things are all good. It's one of the things God made us for. Mm-hmm. Work is not a curse.
Right.
Right?
It's
So
created by God.
Work gives us purpose and gives us something to do and to hone our skills, those kinds of things. The curse for sin was that work was going to be difficult and that it wouldn't produce what we would expect it to produce, right? That was the thing. So, if you're talking about the widget thing, right? So you make a widget, you may go, hey, it's not the most important thing in the world. That's fine. As long as you're paying your bills and you're taking care of your family and you're contributing to society, that's a good thing. It's what God made you to do to provide for your family.
Right.
But then what Jesus did when he comes alongside of Peter, James, and John is say, okay, now let me give you some purpose too. So whatever your work is, if your work is honest and provides for your family, that's great. But if you're not finding a ton of fulfillment in it, then just understand God gave you that work to fund your ministry. Mm-hmm. Right? So you put it, Paul, we think of Paul as being like a full-time preacher. He wasn't. He was a tent maker.
Right.
He made tents so that he could fund the ministry of spreading churches all over the Mediterranean.
Yeah. Well, he had a different obstacle to overcome, right?
Yeah.
So churches were brand new back then.
Yeah.
And people were very leery of false prophets and people who just wanted to eat
Yeah.
and say a bunch of truth. Right? So he became a tent maker just so he could, be above reproach.
Right. And there wasn't a system. When he moved into a new town, there wasn't a system to provide for his needs financially.
Right.
So he went and got a job. So what did he do? Yeah, I'll make some tents. I'll provide my own way. I'm not going to beg you for money. I'm going to provide my own way. And there is a lot to be said about the dignity of just good work in general, right?
That's right.
So, but he used his tent making to fund his ministry. So if you're looking at your job, Jesus is celebrating the fact that you're working, that you have a job. That's good. But if it's not particularly fulfilling, you're saying this isn't my purpose in life, this is just funding my life, then finding your purpose is incredibly important, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what Jesus did with Peter, James, and John, saying, okay, you're fishers of men, but I'm going to teach you to do something that has some real significance. I ran across a quote recently. I was just digging around in my phone looking for it. William Carey was one of the great early missionaries from Great Britain back in the 1800s. And he said, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter. Mm. Isn't that powerful?
Yeah, that's really powerful.
And so it's not about the job that I'm doing. It's about also doing something that matters.
Yeah.
So if your job doesn't feel like it matters that much to you, just understand God gave that to you to fund the ministry that will matter. So let's find that ministry that matters.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
And the other part that I wanted to touch on is that, if you try to add context or suppose context to this story, you would say, why in the world would like James and John leave their father's business and leave their father hanging, right? Because after all, everybody knows today even that if you're Zebedee and you've got your two boys working for you, that's a pretty big deal if those two boys leave that business, right?
That's true.
And and then Peter shutting down his own business. Like, what would ever make them do that based on one sentence from Jesus? And the answer is that if you're a good Jewish boy, one of the highest honors of a Jewish boy's life would be to be called by a rabbi.
Right.
Right? And to follow a rabbi and to train under a rabbi, to be chosen by a rabbi is a great, great honor. Now, it doesn't say so, but there is a good likelihood that Peter, James, and John, and maybe some others, maybe they grew up and maybe they tried to follow a rabbi and maybe they were rejected, right? Because not everybody gets chosen by a rabbi.
Right.
And so there's a good portion of young, good Jewish boys who they start their training by the age of 12. They have to have the entire book of the Torah memorized, right? Every single word of the first 5 books of Moses, of the Old Testament, they have to have it memorized. So every good Jewish boy dedicates their life to those kinds of things, and to be chosen by a rabbi is a great honor. And so, again, it doesn't say, but there's a great possibility that, they're older now. Peter's older, and they've been sort of past that window of being chosen and to be trained by them, to follow them.
They were definitely overlooked.
Yes.
They were probably assessed and determined they didn't have what it took
Yes.
compared to the other boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for Jesus to come along and say, follow me, it's not just that we've heard of this famous guy. It's more than that. It's the fact that I've been chosen.
Yeah.
And I've been chosen by a rabbi.
It would have felt like a second chance for some of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's really important to know. And so even somebody like Zebedee would probably have looked at his boys and said, are you kidding me? Go.
Yeah.
Like, that is a great honor. I can't believe finally a rabbi is choosing my boys.
Yeah.
So he might have even encouraged it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I love the fact that Jesus comes and the first 4 disciples are dock workers.
Yeah.
Right? They're fixing nets.
Right.
They're fishermen. They're dock workers. These are not the creme de la creme.
Right.
Of the academia world at the time.
Right.
And I ran across another great missionary, David Brainerd, wrote this prayer. He said, Lord, let me make a difference for you that is utterly disproportionate to who I am. Oh, isn't that fantastic?
That's great.
I'm going to put that in my office. I found that quote, and I'm going to have it printed up and put it in my office. I love that idea. God, I want to make an impact that is utterly disproportionate to who I am. And
That's right.
God delights in using ordinary people who don't feel like they have much to offer.
That's right.
But when they just get up and go, when God says, and so you know what that purpose was? You know, they were fixing nets. Maybe you're building a widget. Their purpose was, and your purpose is, let's go reach more people who don't know Jesus.
That's right.
That's it. So whatever we can do to reach more people, that will give you that's that shift from success to significance.
That's right.
Is when we finally move over, start reaching people that don't yet know Jesus. And there's a skill set to that, certainly, but there's also the power of the Holy Spirit in us that gives us the words to say.
Yep.
And so just having the courage to get on that mission, man, it's amazing.
Yeah, and then they spent the rest of their lives spending time mending nets and then casting them and reeling in people.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, in the form of ministry. So, hey, that is our time. And so hopefully you enjoy this idea of what if Jesus had a podcast.
Yeah.
And we'll see you tomorrow on the Bible Guys.